Good afternoon, everyone. Actually, good morning, everyone. We moved quickly here. I'd like to call this Board of County Commissioners redistricting meeting to order. We have everyone present, so there's no reason to do a roll call vote at this time. The purpose of this meeting is to consider the proposed redistricting maps and select any number of maps to take to public engagement. And I'll now recognize Deputy County Attorney Mary Helen Ferris to provide opening remarks. Your mic isn't on, no?
Thank you. I think it's been 18 months since I've seen you guys, face to face. So basically just where we are right now, once we received the census data, we had one-on-one meetings with the commissioners to kind of explain where we were and what the data said. After that, our GIS folks generated 4 maps only based on one person, one vote, and targeting zero retrogression in District 3. The other 2 maps, one was submitted by Commissioner Kemp and one by Commissioner Myers. I've reviewed all the maps and found that they are all legally defensible. And the purpose of this, again, is simply to tell us which, all of them, 2, 3, however many maps you want us to take out. We have public meetings set up in each of the 4 districts so that we can take those maps, and then we'll come back to you. So this isn't the first time. This is one in several times that you'll have input on the maps. And with that, I believe there is some public comment.
Yes, there is. We'll take public comment now. The board welcomes comments from citizens at the redistricting meeting. The chair will call on speakers by name in the order in which the requests to speak have been received. Prioritizations on a first-come, first-served basis. All virtual speakers will be muted upon joining the meeting and will be unmuted after being recognized by the chair by name. Up to 3 minutes are allowed for each speaker. And I'll now proceed with our public comment, which I have written right here. And the first speaker to be recognized is Tom Scott.
Good morning, Madam Chair, and to the board. My name is Thomas Scott, former county commissioner representing District 3 for 10 years. I'm calling to speak on supporting map F, which is Commissioner Myers' map. When you look at her map compared to the other one, it is more compact and keep primarily most of the district intact, while the other maps divide or split Progress Village, University Community Area, and also West Tampa. And so I would ask that the commission move forward and support map F, which is also giving the most highest percent of African Americans. I think the current map is about 40% African American. This one, F, is about 38.5. Everything else is below that, all the way down to 36. And so going way back to 1982, this district has been the map that we looked at first, and the one that we also tried to make sure that it was compact and in place and had a good representation of African Americans. So I would encourage all of the commissioners to support map F and move that map forward for further public discussion and dialogue. I want to thank again for your time today, and y'all continue to have a great day and a great meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Ed Narain.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners, and thank you all for the opportunity to speak to you today regarding these new maps that have been put out. Having served in the legislature and gone through the redistricting process a few years ago, I first have to say I was pretty disappointed to see the maps that you're going to discuss today released on a Friday night on a 3-day weekend when most of the citizens of this county were with family and not really paying attention. But regardless of what the intention is, it looks like the same type of political maneuvering I saw when I was in Tallahassee, that we really should be leaving at the Capitol and not allowing to seep into Hillsborough County. More concerning for me, though, is that one of those maps clearly cuts out parts of the black community. It literally cuts it in half in order to create seats that favor one party over the other. Not only does the public deserve better notice when something this important is taking place, But after losing so much of our history already, African Americans in Hillsborough County deserve to have our community kept whole. For example, one of these maps cuts Progress Village in half. Julian B. Lane Park and Beulah Baptist Church have been drawn into a district that its parishioners at one time weren't even allowed to walk into at night. Under one of these maps, community stalwarts like Doris Ross Reddick on the school board and Miss Ruth McNair in West Tampa would be removed from a voting district that they have spent their entire lives fighting and working for, despite there being ample minorities to satisfy the federal redistricting guidelines. Now, I understand that the legal requirements say that the maps have to be compact, they have to be continuous. I also understand that we cannot have retrogression and must keep the deviations between the districts under 10%. But there is absolutely no way that Map E can be the best that we come up with and put forward to the public. So I implore you as you start this process to listen to the community, place partisan politics aside, do your best to keep the African American community whole, and select a map as a starting point that puts the needs and wants of our citizens first. Thank you.
Thank you. And Nick Glover.
Good morning, Commissioners. Madam Chair, thank you for the opportunity to be heard today. I appreciate it. I'm Nicholas Glover, Vice President of Advocacy for the Tampa Bay Chamber. The Chamber has always supported open and transparent governance, and today we wish to express a bit of concern at the process itself, not necessarily at any of the proposed maps. And our concern really is that the public has not had adequate time to weigh in on the proposed maps submitted, as the previous speaker just alluded to, late Friday before a long holiday weekend. And so, Commissioners, our ask is very simple. It's to, as you move forward with one or more of these maps to be considered, we're hopeful that the Commission will provide significant time for community engagement and public comment on the topic before moving forward, ultimately for your decision. It's really important that the public has a say in what goes on here. I was hopeful that that would have taken place over the last couple of days, but given the timing, that did not take place. So that's our hope, significant time for public comment and community engagement. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And with that, that closes our public comment. I'm sorry, at this point, I don't know if Ms. Ferris, did you had further remarks to make? I'll recognize also Ms. Ferris and our GIS manager, Dan Hardy, to introduce the proposed redistricting maps for consideration. Your mic is not on again.
I just want to put on the record, I heard the comments, and this is just the first step. We will take these out for public engagement. We will come back September 29th to decide what to advertise, and then we'll have public hearings. So I just want to make sure that the board understands that we'll have plenty of opportunity for public engagement. And at this point, Dan, if you could briefly just go over each of the maps so that the board and the public can see what the maps, especially the data from the maps. There he is.
Sure. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Dan Hardy. I'm the Enterprise GIS Manager here with Hillsborough County. I'm here this morning to present the 6 map options that we have for you and review the relevant statistics for each map. With that, let me share my screen. This is the first map that we have for you this morning, Map A. The African American concentration in District 3 is 38%. The population variance between districts is 6.5%. Moving to Map B, the Black population distribution in District 3 is 37.4%. The population variance is 1.2% between districts. Moving to map C, the black population distribution, or concentration, excuse me, in District 3 is 36.6%. There is a 1.8% population variance between the districts. Moving to map D, there is a 38.2% black population, black concentration in District 3, and a 1.4% population variance between the districts. Moving to map E, there's a 38.2% black population distribution or concentration in District 3, and a 4.7% population variance between the districts. Moving to map F, we have a 38.5% black population distribution or concentration in District 3 and a 9.5% population variance between the district. Each of these maps presented today are mathematically viable and meet the commissioner's stated criteria.
And does that end your comments then?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much. So at this time, I think we can open the floor for discussion. And just to Ms. Ferris's comments, this is just the beginning. And we're putting out these maps, and there'll be not only this period, but there'll be, again, 2 more public hearings. There'll be 4 weeks in between the further. So, and again, too, the lateness of the season, relatively speaking, was because we didn't get our federal numbers for the first time ever instead of March in August. So I'd just like to point that out. And with that, I don't see any commissioners. Would any commissioners like to be recognized to speak with how to proceed? I'm sorry, Commissioner Myers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a few questions for staff before we proceed that they might be able to answer, if I can do that now.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Have you considered the impact of these maps on the historically black neighborhood? And I just only have 5 questions, so I don't know who would like to answer them, but we can take them one at a time, or how would you prefer, Attorney Ferris?
The maps that the GIS folks group were based on the one person, one vote, and a target of 0 retrogression in District 3. So that was our focus on the 4 that we drew. I'm not sure if I answered your question correctly.
Okay, it's the 4. Okay. So we received 5 maps on Friday.
Correct.
Okay. So you all did not draw the 5th map?
No, the 5th map was drawn by...
Okay, so it wasn't, okay.
Correct.
Now, the second question, and maybe this will play in the part, and I know we talked about the deviation in, between the maps and the demographics and the current makeup of District 3. So you all looked at what made up District 3 with the African American representation. I just want to be on record as the questions that I'm asking, so you know.
That was
okay.
considered.
And did you try to draw the maps that include the maximum number of black voters?
That was one of the criteria.
Okay.
Correct.
And the last question is, in 2010, what was the total population of all the districts, and what was the deviation in 2010? If you went back to look at what...
I believe it was 9 point something %. Maybe Dan could pull that number. I don't have it in front of me.
Okay.
Yes, Mary Helen, it was 9.2%.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Commissioner Hagan, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a few comments. I want to start out by saying to Commissioner Myers that I appreciate her leadership on this issue. I respect your advocacy, not just for the African American community, but also for our Hispanic and minority citizens, as well as all what's in the best interest of all of Hillsborough. After looking at the maps, it appears to me that Commissioner Meyer's map is the most thoughtful one. It reflects a commitment to our community as well as inherent fairness. The map reflects our board's much-stated policies and the necessity to ensure minimal, if any, retrogression. As Mary Helen stated, it is legally defensible. Admittedly, over the last 2 redistricting cycles, I have not submitted a map. However, I know for staff and for Commissioner Myers, I know this is a particularly challenging task given Hillsborough's growth patterns and population increases. However, most of the maps submitted, in my opinion, other than Commissioner Myers' map, they run counter to board discussions and, in my view, reflect a dismissive attitude toward our historically African American District 3. Our criteria, which is based on the Voting Rights Act, says to maximize the opportunity for a minority representative candidate to be elected with a target of 0% retrogression of minority composition in that district. I want to be clear here, when it says minority, in this case, it means black. Yet, over the last several redistricting cycles, the BOCC has done the exact opposite by slowly eroding the black population in District 3. The maps that we've been presented continue that trend of reducing District 3's African American population, which makes it more and more difficult to ensure that an African American is sitting on this board. In a time where this community's historically black district is facing significant gentrification, it is outrageous that we would consider diluting District 3 and threatening our black community's representation. In my opinion, Commissioner Myers' map best protects Hillsborough's black seat, but it also draws a minority-leading majority of Hispanics in District 1, and it makes District 2, my district, a competitive seat, which frankly is also the right thing. Not to say that the map F cannot be tweaked here or there, but I, for one, fully support Commissioner Myers' map. I hope the other commissioners do the same. And candidly, for me, some of these maps are non-starters, and I'd be in support of eliminating some of those today. Thank you.
And I'll just jump in here at this point. I just want to say and I did submitted District Map E. I know for Commissioner Myers, your map was submitted at 8 o'clock last night. That's when I got it, or 7 o'clock last night. So I've hardly had a chance to really review it. The other maps, including mine, were all in Friday night. And so there hasn't been much opportunity to even look or understand what the numbers are or where it is and really look at it. And I would like to say today, it's not like we have to pick one map. I don't think we should. I do think there are a couple maps that really don't help us in the way that we look at compactness, communities of interest. And I would like to say, just for the record, the 4 maps that staff had submitted prior, of those maps, the map that it has 38% on map A of black population. Map B is 37.4% black population. Map C is 36.6% population. Map D is 38.2 population. The map I submitted is 38.2 population, black population in District 3. So those two were tied for the highest black population before we got your map, which is 38.5, so it's 0.3 more. I am interested in, I'll be revising my map a little, but I'll have this one taken, I want this one to move forward. In fact, because I think these are the maps with the highest percentage of Black population, which was what I was trying to do in that district. And it has not been, just for the record, the commission has not done anything in the past to dilute District 3. In fact, District 3, because of natural patterns of movement and the population of the county has shifted. District 3 was initially in 2010, 39%. It's now gone to 33% Black. And then what my map did in particular was bring that number back up again. And even when retrogression was something that the courts looked at when they had preclearance in that, they looked at the current figure, not the former figure, as a judgment. But again, map E, I was looking for compactness, communities of interest, and high equal populations, and as I said, until the map last night, which is 0.3 more Black percentage, the map that I had submitted tied for the top Black population at 38.2%. So I don't want to, I think this is a very good map. I personally think that the maps A and C are maps where there's just not compactness, and it continues that pattern of the District 1 being spread out in a way that I don't find, and it doesn't do anything for us in terms of the numbers at all, in terms of population, in terms of Black representation in District 3. And it doesn't make sense to me in terms of how compactness and service, and how the communities join together. And I'll tell you, I was an aide to Commissioner Castor, so I'm very familiar with that. But at the time, it didn't go to the north. It stopped at Linebaugh. But it really doesn't make sense as a district to have these leg north, leg south, and the numbers don't really support it. So, I would be for, looking at removing A and C, but keeping everything else for the community. And we haven't heard from the community. In fact, it was kind of interesting that the comments were made this morning that they didn't have information, but the map that they had been talking about was one that we only saw last night at 7. So, at any rate, that's where I stand, and I tried very hard with this, but I'm going to look back and be revising it. But I'm obviously very supportive of the map I put forward, and I think it's a really good. It was until last night at 7 had the equal for the highest percentage of Black representation in District 3. Commissioner Myers?
It comes a time when we continue to reflect back as African American people, always fighting for a piece of what is right. We talk about inclusion, diversity, and equity. And when you look at some of these maps, it just doesn't show that as it should. When you look at why we have to eliminate some of the sections that were in District 3 that has now been taken out of District 3 and placed in District 1. Reflect back and say, and I can remember years ago when the African American community was talking about why single member district was so important to the African American community. We needed a seat at the table, or we needed a seat at the dais. Today, I'm going to fight hard for District 3 because we cannot continue to be overlooked, withdrawn out of the district. or make it very difficult for years to come, and the seat is not being held by an African American person. I want to make that clear. It's not about me, but it's about District 3, that an African American person will always hold a seat on District 3. So looking at the maps, yes, I got the maps Friday evening, and I was shocked because I remember bringing it up about, let us go out and have a consultant to do this for us. And we had one on this board was very adamant, no, it needed to be in-house. When I got the maps, I said, now I understand. Sometimes when in the board meeting, you can't see the true picture until you receive the documents or whatever coming next, and it clicks back in your mind, and you wonder, oh, this is maybe A through Z game or A game. But today, this is about the 4 single member districts. 1, 2, 3, and 4. We should have the loudest voices that representing our constituents because we are elected by the single members in our district. We are the ones that are elected. And so, with that being said, the map that I put forth, yes, it came out about 7/16, but I submitted it yesterday after seeing the maps on Friday, because I was looking for the maps early Friday day around about noon. So we'd have had chance enough, so that didn't happen. And so, of course, we were closed on Monday. But I wanted to make sure that we as board members had something for the day that I could submit that represent the African American community, represent District 3. And so that's what Map F bring to the table this morning. So for us who are district commissioners, the maps share all and represent all for our districts. So when we get ready to move forward, I do believe Map F would be the best one put forth that would represent diversity, inclusion, and equity in Hillsborough County. Thank you.
And just for the record, in terms of the in-house, moving it in-house, that was a motion that was made by either Commissioner White or Commissioner Hagan and seconded by one of those two. So that was there. That was, just for the record, done by those commissioners. Commissioner Hagan, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of quick comments. First of all, Commissioner Myers, I appreciate, again, the work you've done on this and the comments you just made. Your map clearly does represent, as you said, diversion, inclusion, and equity, the best of all the maps. I will say that I actually agree with Commissioner Kemp in that Map A and C have serious issues, and I'll make a motion to remove those for consideration. However, at the same time, I want to say to Commissioner Kemp, I wouldn't go too far on patting yourself on the back about your map trying to maximize the African American population in District 3. Your map excludes UC, DC, USF, and an area west of Temple Terrace, all known for bastions of African American citizens. So I wouldn't go too far with patting yourself on the back in that area. I do agree with you on A and C, though, and I'll make that motion. I don't know what the majority of the board feels, but I think A and C, in my opinion, are non-starters, and I'll make a motion to remove those for consideration.
Okay, we have a motion.
I'll second the A and C removal.
Okay. And a second by Commissioner Cohen. I'm sorry, Commissioner Hagan made the motion, Commissioner Cohen seconded. And I just want to say that my map, again, as of Friday, tied for the highest African-American population percentage of any of the maps. So just for the record, and Commissioner Myers has 0.3, I have 38.2, and Commissioner Myers has 38.5. So, and I think I can, like I say, I'm going to be working a little bit more with my map changing up. But we have a motion now by Commissioner Hagan with a second by Commissioner Cohen. Commissioner White, you recognize?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Myers has clearly articulated why she brought forth a commissioner-drafted map. Commissioner Kemp, can you tell us again why you prepared a map?
Yes, because I wanted to look and get, particularly in District 1 and the sprawling District 1 is why I definitely wanted to look at that and look what I could do to maximize the Black community, which I did. I got, as I said, the highest percentage, and the map that the staff drew that equals that percentage looks extraordinarily close to mine. I also wanted to look at communities of interest. For instance, some of the other maps split part of Plant City. Other maps split Brandon multiple ways, 3 ways instead of 2. So I was paying a lot of attention to those communities and what they did, and I was very interested in seeing, what we could come up with. And I think it's a very good map, and I think it can be changed up. But
I was just hoping that some of those types of concerns and issues could have been ferreted out today with just staff drafts in front of us. With that being said, though, with respect to the motion on the floor, I can tell you right now that map B as in boy is going to be a non-starter for the city of Plant City. It divides their city between 2 different districts. Plant City very much wants to remain a part of District 4, where they have similar interests, particularly agricultural interests, and others to the remainder of East Hillsborough County. So I would move to amend the motion such that we go ahead and eliminate map B as in boy as well, if we're going to get rid of some maps today.
Commissioner Cohen, you're recognized.
So, admittedly, I have not had as much time to look at map F as I did this weekend at the others, but I do want to start out by complimenting Commissioner Myers for the fact that there were certain places that I looked on the map that I was surprised weren't part of District 3. I looked at Beulah Baptist Church, for example, and it sort of got me thinking, and I was surprised at some of the earlier maps, many of the ones that have been proposed for elimination, that things like Progress Village, all of a sudden were part of the conversation. So I want to just zero in on a couple of these maps specifically for a second. The first one I want to talk about, just from my cursory example.
I actually, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to just stop you there, because I was trying to get in the conversation here. But Commissioner White just made so I'm wondering if we should, and it's my, I didn't interrupt it because I was just like looking to do this. But so Commissioner White made a motion to eliminate a amendment to the motion to eliminate B as well. And Commissioner Overman seconded that. And so I guess at this point, we should make comments to the motion. Commissioner Overman, is that to the motion?
As opposed to the original.
The amended, yeah.
Okay, so I'll just get back in the queue.
And I'm sorry to have interrupted you. I'll call on you first.
But for the record, I support the amendment to the motion to get rid of item B. I assumed that would make it a non-starter, and I understand that.
Yeah. And Commissioner Overman.
Thank you. And I'll make this very brief because I think the motion actually addresses my concerns. But also, I wanted to just, Commissioner Myers' map in just one way. I, too, am very concerned to make sure that the African-American vote, the Black vote, speaks loudly in our community, and how critically important it is to make sure that this dais reflects the population. The only hesitation I have regarding map F is that it's a lower actual number of Black population.
Can we just speak to the amendment?
I'm going to get back to there.
Then we'll get back to the general. Okay.
And so I agree that map A, B, and C do not address those concerns. They do have higher numbers in terms of the Black vote, but they don't put the communities together that I think we were looking to try and create some cohesiveness. So if we eliminate those 3 maps, which I am in agreement to do, I think the issue associated with the actual population of District 3 will need to be under consideration, and I'll stop there.
Thank you. I think these are comments, I think we've got all the comments to the amendment. And I'd just like to remind everybody too, this is just like the first swipe at even going out to just get public comment. So it's not even, maps can be submitted up to, I think, can you give me that? Or amended, or, and even as long as they're not substantial amendments, but go ahead.
I believe it's September 13th.
Yeah, I just like to remind everybody that
Right.
that's there. So this is just, and they're bringing, how many are you doing this week or in the next 13 days? What are you doing in terms of, I just like to make this clear, because it's not as if we have to craft these maps. And frankly, myself, I don't think we should be doing it without, getting a broader.
Madam Chairman and Commissioners, again, this is to tell us what maps to take to public engagement. We had originally set a deadline of September 13th for commissioners to submit map proposals. It is our intent to try to take these maps to the public in those engagement meetings in each district now the week of September 20th through 24th, and then to come back to this board on September 29th and ask for your direction on which maps to advertise for the 4-week mandatory advertising period that will cover the period of October. And then we would come back and ask the board to conduct its first public hearing on November 8th, and then a second public hearing on November 16th. So again, the intent is to take whatever maps you deem to have public engagement and bring back those comments for your consideration, and then if there's adjustments to be made, staff will make those adjustments and bring them back for your ultimate consideration on September 29th.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that everybody understands this is not the final meeting or anything like that. So this is just a beginning. So we have a amendment to the motion at this point to eliminate map B. We have an amendment by Commissioner White, seconded by Commissioner Overman. Commissioner Cohen, did you want to speak to eliminating map B? Okay. And seeing no further comments by any commissioners at this time, and we're all here, so we don't have to do a roll call vote. We can just, please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay, thank you. Then we're back on the main motion for to include A, B, and C. And Commissioner Cohen, you're recognized.
Well, I think I'm actually going to wait until we then get to the discussion of the other 3 maps, because that's really what I want to talk about, or the other 3 maps.
Well, you can talk to that.
Okay,
we're just talking about all of it now.
Fine, that's fine. Okay, so
instead of just the amendment, we're just talking the whole thing.
Let me pick up then where I left off. Mm-hmm. I think that what I want to point out to everyone is that map D and map F are very similar. And where Commissioner Myers tweaked map D, she didn't tweak map D, where her map F is different than map D within the city, I think it improves it significantly. Let me talk to the minute for the moment about the tail coming down. I don't think the beginning of the tail, and if you're looking on map F, you can see there's a tail and then sort of a bulge at the bottom where Apollo Beach is. I don't think the tail itself is inappropriate, because most of that is part of the Port of Tampa. It's very sparsely populated in the sort of northern half of the tail, and it actually ties in very well with a lot of the industrial that bleeds over from the port to the east. I do have some concerns about the Apollo Beach piece. I think that in the spirit of not wanting to divide communities, sticking Apollo Beach on its own is not probably my favorite outcome. It is my guess, however, that could be tweaked, that is not something that would necessarily throw this map out. It just could be simply compensated for example, on map D in the extreme northwest part of the county, what you'll notice is that above Linebaugh to the extreme west, map D takes in that piece, map F does not. That might be a way of swapping out and solving that problem without having necessarily to redraw the whole map. So I guess where I'm coming from, if once A, B, and C are eliminated, it seems to me that you really start to see the makings of what the ultimate map would look like. And to Commissioner Meyer's point, we should get as many decimal points as possible closest to where we are now. And I think that part of that is accomplished by some of the way these lines were drawn inside the city of Tampa, particularly respecting the university and things like that. The only other comment that I would make is that what I also remember about this board's direction was that we were going to try to have major arteries be the boundaries. And if you look at both maps D and F, they really respect major arteries as forming the boundaries. One of the things that concerns me about E is that it to me goes too far to the east over to the other side of 275, and I thought that it also removed parts of down in the North Hyde Park, in the area around Beulah Baptist, that area more traditionally belonged in District 3. But again, you're talking about tweaking here with all three of these maps. They're similar enough that they form the basis, I think, of what we can go forward with. And so that I sort of see the ABC as being eliminatable, and us landing somewhere within D, E, and F, being respectful of the traditional makeups of our neighborhoods and trying to find a way to make Apollo Beach be united with the rest of South County.
Thank you. Commissioner Smith, you're recognized.
Thank you. And Commissioner Cohen, I agree with you that if in looking at map F, and first let me say that I understand what the citizens who commented were saying about feeling like they haven't had a chance to provide input at this stage, but they may just be, so I'm glad that we had Mr. Wagner explain what the process is, that now we'll be going out to the public and that there will be plenty of time for even whole new maps or certainly changes to these maps. And so, I too am just looking at map F this morning, and this morning we were in a land use meeting. So, but on first blush, I agree that one of the issues with it is the tail, and nice term there. And people have expressed for the last 10 years we've had the current districts that it is odd. There were editorials at the time saying it's odd that Ruskin would be lumped into the same district as Palmacia and some of these other areas. But there was a little sense to saying, well, District 1 has all the coast. And there are some commonalities in the coast. But, the way this is on map F now, I think is worse than what we've had in the southern part of it. For one thing, it divides Gibsonton in half without any rhyme or reason, and I would think that Gibsonton community would be concerned to have just a little bit of them, their community, their coastal bit, hanging out into District 1 while their major piece is, put in another district So that's a problem for me. But certainly, if, although Apollo Beach is a distinct community from Ruskin, they share so many concerns about what's going on in South County. The comments that we get in our email show that certainly, that the kinds of letters we get about what's going on in South County come the same from Apollo Beach as Ruskin. And, as a resident of Ruskin, we share an awful lot. We share the Ruskin Drive-In, we share these ELAP park lands and things, and the libraries serve us both. The South Shore Library as well serves all of us. Anyway, I think you either come down and get all of us, or, Gibsonton, Apollo Beach, and Ruskin, or you stay north of that. And so that's something that pops out to me. One other note on the discussion: these redistricting discussions can and historically have had their contentious moments. I would ask us all at the outset of this to refrain from the kinds of comments that was made about how this board has been dismissive of concerns of the African American community. I mean, that's out of line. There is nobody sitting on this board who is not deeply, carefully considering the concerns of our minority communities, and everyone on this board is mindful and working hard to make sure that our system and our county is as inclusive and respects the diversity of our communities, and works to ensure that we have that diversity represented on this board. So as we get started, let's all tread carefully in our accusations and work with the assumption that we are all rowing in the same direction in that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. Good comments. And again, just for the record, and you brought up a good point, Commissioner Overman, but just for the record, within regards to that too, Map E is the map I submitted. The Black population on Map E is 136,600 plus. And Map F, Commissioner Myers, is it's 6,000 less, and Black population is 130,000. So, I mean, I was very much trying to, look at that, and as Commissioner Smith said, rowing in the same direction. I very much appreciate those comments, because I do believe that's true on everyone's part. Commissioner Hagan, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With all due respect to Commissioner Smith, I'm going to make a couple more accusations. I can't help but believe there was a partisan influence with respect to District 2 in Map E, and it was self-serving in that it drew Commissioner Kemp into District 1. I don't think Map E can be tweaked. Candidly, it should be scrapped. That being said, I do believe Map D and Map F can be tweaked. On F, for example, the current geographical southern boundary is Brandon Boulevard. Map F goes a little bit south of that. Perhaps that's one area that could be tweaked. Additionally, on the northeast part of District 2, currently it goes further east. Perhaps that's another area that could be considered. Again, I have not looked at populations or any of that stuff, but so I do think D and F can be tweaked, but I think Map E should be immediately scrapped. Thank you.
And seeing at this time no further discussion, we have a motion on the floor that was made by Commissioner Hagan, seconded by Commissioner Cohen at this point, to eliminate maps A, B, and C. And seeing no further discussion, Please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay. I think we have what we need here. We're moving on, and these will go to public comment, and then we'll see how this evolves. Thanks to everyone for their comments.
Madam Chair,
Chair.
I have a question too.
Okay,
Oh.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I know the weekend, this is the beginning of the process, and we can, tweak it throughout, but I just want clarification. We still have until the 13th for additional maps to be submitted? Is that accurate?
I thought
If
it was the 18th.
you, we're seeing Ms. Ferris shake her head, yes. So.
I'm sorry, yes.
Just for clarification, I thought it was the 18th.
That's what I thought
too.
as well.
So I just want to be clear, is it the 13th or the 18th?
That's September 18th is what we had said before, I believe.
He changed it.
Yeah, Brandon says it's the 18th.
Okay, September 18th. Okay.
And just for clarification.
Commissioner Cohen, yeah.
We have 3 maps, but commissioners are still, just commissioners at this point, entitled to tweak anything that they want and bring back what will become GHIJKLMNOP?
Hopefully not that far.
Okay, but what, is the staff going to do anything with what we said here today? Is there going to be any more staff production of maps?
No, we're
Okay,
done.
Got it. All right, thank you.
Commissioner Myers?
Yes. September the 18th is a Saturday.
Oh.
Or Friday the 17th. But I just want to point that out.
Uh-huh.
It's also a Saturday that happens to be a big football weekend for Commissioner Hagan and myself,
And me. And me.
Yes.
and Ms. Ferris.
I mean, we did determine all these dates prior.
And Commissioners, I apologize. It is the 18th. I said the 13th earlier, and I stand corrected. It is the 18th. I understand that's a Saturday, so, it is your guidelines. If you wish to adjust them, you can do so. If you want to have them, by close of business on the 17th, that would be fine. It does not affect going to the public with the 3 maps that you've already designated. They would simply
Right.
be available for consideration at the September 29th meeting, along with any comments that were received on the 3 maps that you selected for public engagement.
So, I mean, basically, if people want to have things done, they should work before by this.
And we'll come in on the 18th if you want to.
17th or something. Yeah.
We'll make it work.
Okay.
And my apologies for the confusion.
Do we need to make a motion that it's the 17th, so we're all on one accord?
You could do that?
I'll second a motion to make it by close of business on the 17th, Commissioner Myers, if that's your intent.
Yes.
Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Myers and seconded by Commissioner White. And does anyone want to speak to this motion? Yes, Commissioner Smith.
Yes, I was in the queue about the timeline, Brandon, so don't go too far. Okay, so just to be clear, the maps are submitted, let's say 17th. The week of the 20th and 24th, you take which maps out to the public?
At this point, the maps we take to the public are the one that you selected today. There won't be sufficient time to turn any additional maps around for that time period. And again, Commissioners, I apologize, but we are in a really compressed time frame because of when we got the data. The maps that you may draw from henceforth can be considered on the 29th, but trying to get them in, we would have to convene you again to get direction to take any additional maps to that public engagement.
So you're taking these D, E, and F without any further tweaking at all to the public the week of the 20th to the 24th, regardless of what gets adjusted or tweaked or even submitted wholly by the 17th? I mean, would you have time to reevaluate, say, if Commissioner Myers or Commissioner Kemp or anybody made any revisions to their maps in the interim, how are we going to deal with that?
Well, Commissioner, if it's the desire to come back and make additional corrections for public engagement, we can seek a meeting of the board for next week to take any changes and consider adding those to the list that goes to the public. If that's the board's desire, we'll do that.
And let's see, so it's the 20th through 24th. We do have a board meeting on the 22nd where we, although that will be during the public engagement, but then on the 29th is the meeting where we don't select a map. At that point, we select the maps that will be finally advertised to the public. So
that is correct.
So we're just taking comment on these draft maps for now. And then on the 29th, we will finalize any other maps with new maps or revised maps, and those will be formally noticed before 2 public hearings.
That is correct.
Now, if any changes are made at any of those public hearings, we're in trouble.
It depends on the level of changes. So if you create, and help me here legally, if you make minor changes, you're probably fine. But if you decide we're going to change the map completely, we're going to do a new map or a substantial change to those maps, we'll be required to do another 2 weeks of public advertising, then come back and do another public hearing, and that would take us into December. That's why the time frame is so tight. We have to allow for the 4 weeks to advertise. We have to allow for the public hearings and sufficient time between those, and then give you time in case you did change or add to take another 2 weeks of advertisement and then move into December, because again, we have to complete the process this calendar year because it's an odd numbered year.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And the first of those public hearings is what date?
November 8th is currently the scheduled first public hearing in November.
But you're requiring the maps by September 17th?
I'm sorry, Commissioner, for any commissioner submitted maps, we would ask for them under the new time frame by the close of business on September 17th. The following week is when we do the public engagement of the maps that you selected. Then we would come back to you on September 29th to give you the comment that was received and any adjustments to maps that you had made since that time. Then at that point on September 29th, you would select the maps that you want to be advertised for the 4 weeks. That gives the public sufficient time to know what the potential maps are. Then you would come back on November 8th to have the first public hearing and November 16th for the second public hearing.
I see. Okay. Okay. So we have a motion at this time by Commissioner Myers to make close of days Friday, September 17th.
Yes, ma'am.
To Commissioner Smith, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
But if what's going to be, what's possible, maps can still be tweaked and submitted really up to the 29th? Because that's our board meeting, or nothing can be done after the 17th?
I'm sorry, Commissioner. Right, the way the deadline was established was that the 17th would be the deadline for receiving maps from commissioners. That allows for time to consider those changes, or those new maps if they are. It also allows time for us to take the maps that you selected to public engagement and then bring back that feedback and any tweaks that might be recommended for your consideration all on the 29th. And the 29th is the culmination of the maps that have gone to engagement, any maps that may have come in prior to that or in that time, or any tweaks that you may make at that time, and then we have to go to advertisement for 4 weeks.
Okay.
And I think what I originally understood was that September 28th was the last day for submitting maps, because it's a meeting where we decide it.
Well, Commissioner, again, we had established the 18th, but this is your process. So if the board decides it wants to do something else, staff will accommodate as best we can. We just ask you to consider that we do have to do the public engagement piece. So that takes time for us to arrange those locations. We have to do advertising. We have to put signs out. So there's a lot of labor that has to go to setting those up, in addition to setting up the website to allow for virtual participation in that way. But the biggest key after that is the ability to advertise for that 4-week period. That's just mandated in the charter. We can't get around that. And if we get too far into November, we run the risk of hitting holidays, and we run in the risk of, if you decide to make a change in November, having sufficient time to do advertising for another 2 weeks. So if it's the board's pleasure, we'll do whatever you ask us to do in terms of accepting maps. It's your process.
Okay. And just to be clear too, because this was one of the things that was expressed to us, this is just about major changes, not de minimis changes. And Ms. Ferris, if you could.
Yes, that is correct. That is correct. It's analogous to if you tweak an ordinance, which you have in the title, that it's that kind of analysis. So, but if it's not a major change, then it would not trigger that additional public hearing.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And Commissioner Overman?
Thank you. Just a quick question. So we have D, E, and F, okay? And those are the 3 maps we're going to take to the public. But we have until the 17th to provide an opportunity to consider some of the comment today and tweak the maps. But we're not going to take those maps to the public on the 20th to the 23rd. Please help me understand why that makes sense. I'm just trying to understand. Thank you.
I understand, Commissioner, and that's why we had suggested if you'd like to add another meeting of the board to consider what those changes are prior to going to the public, we can do that. We'll just need to work your calendars and see when you can convene, let's say the end of next week, in order to develop, to look at those and give time for GIS staff to make those changes. We're perfectly happy to do that. Again, it's your process. We're happy to accommodate as you ask us to do. Then we can take whatever changes you suggested going forward to the public that week of September 20th. And again, because of the time compression, we're going to try to do those meetings sequentially, one at a time, or night after night, to make sure we get them done. So if that's the pleasure of the board, we'll do that.
Okay, and I just have one other question. Like in terms of, well, I wonder, I guess I was just told that, wait, that would be, a meeting on, what do we have? A meeting on, we have a meeting on Wednesday, September 22nd. And then and we have our land use on Tuesday, October 5th. I mean, it's not like we have to advertise the specific maps. I have another question too. So I believe that with me, I'd rather just keep my map, but probably make small changes, like a new map, not, keep including my map. So there's nothing to, I mean, I would resubmit a variation of my map. And again, I think this is a Ms. Ferris question. I mean, because we're talking about submitting all these other maps, but each time we make a revision, doesn't need to be a new map.
No, you can make a revision to an existing map.
All right, I just want to be clear. Okay, and I don't know if anybody wants to do something with regards to this, considering I always thought it was not quite a straight, clear process about how this went, because I don't know if anybody wants to make a suggestion about doing this differently. Right now, we have a motion by Commissioner Myers, seconded by Commissioner White, to do a deadline on all maps by close of day on Friday, September 17th. Is that submitted by commissioners? But wait, I mean, I don't think staff should be able to generate any after that either. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry. Commissioner White, you're recognized.
Yes, Madam Chair, I have a suggestion, and that suggestion would be that Mr. Wagner and his staff at these community meetings make it clear that those are not formal public hearings, that the board could end up adopting literally an infinite number of potential maps, and to encourage the people that engage there to come to the actual public hearing and participate in that. And that would take care of any additional maps that have been submitted by commissioners before the close of business on the 17th if Commissioner Myers' motion passes. That would take care of any issue of members of the public submitting any maps right up to the into the 11th hour. I mean, it's really just that simple. These community meetings are not public hearings, and I think that the public needs to be made aware of that. It's an information gathering meeting, so I think the posture of staff would be, here are 3 maps that have been considered by the county commission so far, but we're a long way from the finish line. So we want your feedback today, but we also want you to know that there are formal public hearings that you can and should participate in. In my mind, it's just that simple, and that takes care of any potential issues, because, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Ferris, but we can't tell a member of the public that they cannot submit a map. It's someone's right and privilege to submit a map right up till adoption day.
Correct.
Yeah, so, really we're going to just, that's always going to be an issue, and I think it's just a matter of staff just making it clear to the public as to what these community engagement meetings are and are not, and encourage them to come to the formal public hearing. And I think the problem's solved.
Can I just ask one clarification? You meant a commissioner submit a map?
No, I believe a member of the public can submit a map right up till
Yeah.
adoption day. That's
No,
their.
we said that
that's their
wasn't the
First Amendment
case.
right.
Ms. Ferris, again, would you please? Because this was a big point of discussion.
What the issue is, somebody in the public can always submit something to the commissioners at any time they want to.
To the commissioners.
Or to the county, people.
Wait. To the county. Some member of the public can just come in and say, I want this ordinance, or I want this or that.
Well, they communicate and just ask for some kind of action on the point of the board.
A member of the public can absolutely petition the county and say, I want this ordinance. It's up to the board to hold a public hearing and decide whether or not to adopt it.
Well, they can
But
come to
yes.
public comment or something, but that doesn't mean that it's adopted at all by us. But unless a commissioner puts it on so you're saying staff is going to put maps from the community to us after we were told no.
Commissioner, it was always designed that that the submissions had to come from commissioners, because we didn't have the capacity to handle if 100 people in the community decided to submit a map. It needed to go through a commissioner. The commissioner would put eyes on it and decide if whether or not that was something that they would submit under their name. So that's how it was laid out. It was to come from commissioners.
Madam Chair, do I still have the floor?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so we're really getting in the weeds here, but what Mr. Wagner is saying is that anything that's submitted by the public will be channeled to the commissioners, and then we'll decide at that point whether or not we want to entertain it. But it's still really the same concept.
May I clarify? Is that what you're saying, Mr. Wagner? Because I understood it to be something very different when I went back and forth about this before.
Staff is not receiving any maps. We have not received any maps. The 4 maps that were submitted by staff were starting points for the board's consideration. That's it. Staff will not make any more maps unless the board directs staff to make maps.
So if a member of the public wants to, they have an idea that they have something. So what do they do?
they would be directed to go talk to their commissioner or to a commissioner. We
Okay.
are not- we are
And then
not
the commissioner
entertaining
can do it, but it's the commissioner's map then.
That is correct.
Right, but if a map is sent to staff unsolicited, you would then channel that to the 7 commissioners and
Well,
put it, place it in front of us.
We would channel back to the individual to contact a commissioner.
Perfect.
We're not going to name a commissioner. We're not going to send it to all 7 because we don't want to be in a position where we look like we're advocating for a particular individual or map. We'd be directed to contact a commissioner.
I hear you, and we are way, way, way in the weeds here, way in the weeds, but I hear you loud and clear, and I understand how the process is going to work.
And please, we understand that this is complex because of the time constraints that we're under, and we have to have some level of cutoff, whenever that is, to be able to take something to public comment or to public engagement. And to Commissioner, your point, we are calling it public engagement. It's not a workshop. It's not a public hearing. It's simply an open house, for the lack of a better term, where people can come in, they can see the maps, they can collect information on the variances, the minority representation, whatever pieces they're looking for, and staff is simply there to answer those technical questions that they're asked, and they can provide comment. The same thing will be provided online on the county's website. Folks that may not be able to make it to a location or may not feel comfortable going to that location can do the exact same thing online as they can do in person. But I go back. What you approved today was sending D, E, and F to public engagement. If the board wishes to make changes and wants to add more to that public engagement schedule, more maps, more changes, then we would need to come back and ask the board for another meeting so you can direct us to add those pieces to that. But we are now at the point where we have to set those meetings. We're not going to have any specifics on it, but we have to set locations, we have to set the times, and get those lined up. So it really is the board's pleasure if you wish to convene again to consider anything further to take to public engagement. If not, then we'll take D, E, and F as they are to public engagement. And again, we can adjust the timing. So if you wanted to say, you know, all maps are due by September 15th, and you convene on September 17th, and then decide to add more things to the agenda for the following week, we will do that if the board directs us to do so. We're not trying to make it complicated. We're simply trying to accommodate the guidance of having public input, meeting the advertising mandate, and having those public hearings in November with sufficient time in case we need it.
I just wanted to very much clarify that because that was a point that I made very strongly, and it wasn't in the weeds before. It was just part of the discussion. So I just wanted to clarify that. So right now, Commissioner Cohen, you're recognized.
So I hate to prolong this discussion, but it's important. And here's the problem I have with this is that there is a little bit of putting the cart before the horse here. Commissioner Kemp's already said she's going to tweak Map E. Map F, I think, can have a few minor variations and it can go. Why not give the public as close to as possible what is as close to what we're considering? What concerns me if we take 3 things out that we haven't given our best shot at yet is that we may create false expectations for people to make comments about. I suggested a few very minor tweaks to Map F that would make me very comfortable with it. It sounds like you have ideas for how you want to tweak Map E. I just would rather see the public see those than see the beginning of our process rather than the end. So, you know, I'm okay with coming back at the end of next week if everyone wants to do that. But you know, it's just because I think we should get it. I understand Commissioner White's point, but it seems to me sort of disingenuous to take something out that we know we've got tweaks to make to based on our conversations that we had here today. If we take Map F without tweaking Apollo Beach, we're just going to get a bunch of comments about Apollo Beach, which I don't think really serves the narrow purpose of really getting people to get into the nitty-gritty of the maps. So I think what I'd like to propose is that we perhaps make the deadline a day or two earlier and do exactly what Mr. Wagner said. If people are available on Friday the 17th to just tweak what we're going to put out, I think we'll put out a better product.
And by the way, just to be clear, So we put these, we vote on these, we put them out. We have 4 weeks, and it may be that people have other comments when they're tweaked and whatever, but they can be tweaked at the final hearing. To me, it's not the time to do it right now. I always wondered about this. Far be it from me to, say have less process, but I do think that you can over process these can be, I guess, up on the website they already are. But I always wondered about how this was, but I guess it got some initial conversation going about expectations and, put some maps out there. Commissioner Myers?
Thank you, Madam Chair. If we tweak now, then we have the community engagement. That will require another tweak, perhaps. Okay? I think we should just do one overall tweak. We have what the community is saying, what we're looking at, and just do one major tweak. Because if the community gives us something and says that in map F, or D or E, we're going to have to tweak it. We cannot ignore it. So that would be 2 tweaks. We tweak now, and then we tweak again. Okay? I want to keep it real, folks. Board members, I want to keep it real, okay? Let's just have one tweet. What we're sending out today is to solicit comments from the public. So once we have their comments, then we do an overall, and that will be advertised to the public. We have their comments, our final comments. We have one finished product.
Okay. So we have a motion by Commissioner Myers to change the 18th to September 17th at close of business, 5 o'clock that day, September 17th. We have a motion by Commissioner, it was Commissioner Myers, seconded by Commissioner White. Any further discussion? And seeing no further discussion, please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Great. Okay, we're adjourned.